Hey everybody, this is Bob Kovacs here at Wirefly, and I intend to do a benchmark test today between two of the more interesting phones. I think they're two of the more interesting phones that are currently on the market, and I will tell you why. On the right is the HTC EVO 3D for Sprint. This is not only a 4G phone, of course, it is the first cell phone to hit the US shores that can do actual 3D photography and video and display it in 3D without wearing glasses on the screen. On the left is the Motorola DROID X2 for Verizon. Now this is a 3G phone for Verizon, and that's a big reason perhaps of why I think it's flying under the radar of all of Verizon's phones. Most of the attention to Verizon's phones have gone to its 4G phones, the Thunderbolt, the LG Revolution, and what's the third one? The Samsung Droid Charge. So those have gotten most of the press. But the Droid X2 is a heck of a good phone with a lot of interesting features. Both of these phones have dual-core processors. Both of these phones have 540 by 960 resolution. So, very interesting. Now, there's a lot of other features that differentiate these two phones. Here you've got a front-facing camera. There's no front-facing camera over here. As I said, this is a 4G phone. This is a 3G phone. Both of these phones are large things to be carrying in your pocket. Now, the Droid X2, you might think it's kind of slim, but the fact is, when you compare it to the EVO 3D, it's pretty much the same thickness. And that's not counting the thicker end here on the Droid X2. So anyway, I intend to do some benchmark testing. Let's go ahead and zoom in just a little bit closer. And I'm going to test them first with Quadrant. Oh, one other thing that differentiates the two phones is the EVO 3D has 1 GB of processor RAM, whereas the Droid X2 has only 512 megabytes of processor RAM. But no more talk. Let's go ahead and run the benchmarks. I will come back to the camera when the benchmarks are ready to wrap up. The EVO 3D is ready to wrap up its 3D visual test here as part of the Quadrant test. So I'm going to go ahead and get the results. Meanwhile, the Droid X2 seemed to have trouble with one of the mathematical parts of the test, but that's the last of the 3D tests in the Quadrant suite of tests. And now we have the results. Over here, the EVO 3D says it got a score of 2,341. That's 2341. Over here on the Droid X2, we got a score of 2,641, so 2641. 2641 for the Droid X2, 2341 for the EVO 3D. Okay, now I'm also going to run SmartBench 2011. I'm going to run the full suite of scores here. I'm going to go back to SmartBench and run it. Sorry, I didn't have it quite prepared. And here we go. I'm going to try to run them at the same time. I'm going to leave this one up because SmartBench runs pretty fast, and the speed with which you see things happen visually is a result of the speed of the processor. Here we have a dual-core 1 gigahertz processor. Here we have a dual-core 1.2 gigahertz processor, and away we go. Okay, there's some mathematical tests. Now we do the first of the visual tests. Now it's going to jump back to another visual test and take a look at how quickly those are running. I'm going to try to brighten it up for you a little bit. And they're kind of neck and neck at this point. This is the last of the visual tests, called the jellyfish test. And now it's asking if I want to get the scores over here. Let's go get the scores. Both of these phones are running on their respective networks. The Motorola DROID X2 is on Verizon, and the EVO 3D is on Sprint. And here we have the results. Now, SmartBench gives you two results, a productivity index and a games index. For the productivity index, the Droid X2 scored 2,255, that's 2255. For the games index, it scored 2,415. That's 2415. Over here on the EVO 3D, the productivity index is 2,623. That's 2623. And the games index is 1,661. That's 1661. Okay, what is to account for this? It seems like the DROID X2 is actually getting some better scores than the EVO 3D. Now, the productivity score is better on the EVO 3D. They have different processors. They're both dual-core processors, but they're different processors. They have different amounts of RAM. They're allocating their processors differently. I really don't know exactly why the scores are what they are, but it shows that the DROID X2 has got some pretty impressive benchmark scores, both with Quadrant and with Smart Bench. So, hey, this is Bob Kovacs here at Wirefly. Thanks for watching.